Hello, welcome to Meet Me in the Movies. I am Noel T. Manning II. Glad to have you here. I'm so happy that you could join us right here, whether you're doing that here at C19 TV, online, c19.tv, or if you're listening to the podcast version of the show, that's wgwg.org. However you choose to spend time with us, we really do appreciate it. And I don't say that lightly. Thomas Manning, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing all right. You know, it's a little bit exhausted. Time change threw me off a little bit, but I'm here. I'm on spring break, so I'm doing all right.
Well, good. Yeah, you were Tim back there on the Tim cam. You were asking me about. Good to see you, buddy. Good to see the interns. Tim was asking about the time change and does it have an impact? And yeah, I think we all maybe experience a little bit of that tiredness. And I've got to share this. I was watching. Time change also impacts theaters, because I was watching a late movie while the time change was going on, and it skipped an hour. I'm watching the movie, I'm like 30 minutes in, and then all of a sudden it skips like an hour, and I'm watching the end of the movie. Not very happy about that. So the time change can have some impact in ways that we maybe didn't expect. So I was up pretty late that night. Now, what about you? You stay up pretty late.
Yeah, let's see, yesterday was about a 19-hour day for me. So that's why I'm kind of stumbling over my words right now.
Right.
So, you know, up at 7:45 yesterday, had to go to Charlotte, record a podcast with Daryl and Douglas, who have been on the show.
A couple of our guests.
And then, you know, yesterday, I don't know why I didn't go to bed till like 2:45 a.m., but I didn't.
But you did?
So, but I'm back here today. Good to go.
Good. Well, we're glad you're here, glad you're alive, because I would not want to be talking by myself today. We would have brought in the interns out here in the studio, or maybe Tim, and he could have switched it live out here. We could have said, no, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work. But yeah, a lot of things happening out in the world of theater. I was actually talking to some of the management at AMC locally about the coronavirus and any kind of impact that has on them. And they said it really has not had an impact on attendance because, you know, we don't have cases right here. Now, once that happens, I think you'll see a greater impact. But they are having to do some precautions as it relates to how they handle food and how they handle money. And so it's interesting that it is going to start seeing that impact kind of across the board as well. Now, Greg Tillman over there on beside camera one, I've been told he is here. Now, what I found out, Tim, last week, you were just sharing with me that he went to the chemistry department and he loved the Invisible Man so much that he thought he would do some kind of invisibility formulas. It worked, evidently, because he's not here, but the problem is we're only finding notes from Greg, and something about it also affected his speech. So the invisibility, not just a visual invisibility, but also a vocal invisibility as well. So we're hoping that does wear off at some point so he can be back on the show. And if not, we'll just, and maybe he is here. He said he's here, but he hasn't knocked over anything yet. He hasn't kicked Thomas in the head or come up behind him and, like, you know, massaged his shoulders or anything. So if you're ever on me and I'm doing something like that, you'll know that Greg's behind us doing some strange stuff. So Greg, we're glad you're here in whatever form you choose to be here, or formless as far as that goes. Well, Thomas, some sad news just happened recently. Max von Sydow, who is a legend in the film industry, well over 100 film and TV credits to his credit. He passed away at the age of 90. He was well known for the film The Exorcist, also The Seventh Seal. He was in The Greatest Story Ever Told, which was the story of Christ, Flash Gordon, and a film that you liked pretty well.
Yeah, he was actually, I think, the first character on screen in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. In The Force Awakens, you know, he's in that village at the very beginning of the film. And just a small cameo role, but I'll always remember that experience sitting in the theater for the first time with a new Star Wars film, and there he is right there. So.
Yeah, just an amazing actor, and he had this face that many character actors try to emulate that we've seen today. But we're sorry that he has left us, but we're very happy for the body of work that he's left behind that we can go back and watch. And if we can get Greg's voice and Greg's face back, I'd love to do a take 5 in the not too distant future. There we go. We got all sorts of weird things going on. I think Greg may have even stepped back there to start pushing buttons back there in the Tim Cam. Yeah, it sounds like it. Oh, no, you're just letting the intern run the show. There you go. Well, hey, man, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Well, let's go on to some movie news, movie-related reviews. You and I got a chance to check out this film. That's an animated film that's got some great voice acting.
Yeah.
The movie is called Onward, and I've been looking forward to this really since I saw the first trailer. Now, somebody we talked to recently did not like the trailer. It didn't appeal to them. Was that Brendan that went to see the movie
Perhaps
with us?
Brendan Boylan, yeah. I'm kind of Brendan's intern. He's a Sports Illustrated writer, ESPN Plus commentator. So maybe we'll have Brendan on the show sometime to talk about. He's got some experience in documentary filmmaking. So hey, maybe we'll have him on the show.
Right. Now he was not pleased with the film from the trailer standpoint, but he seemed to enjoy it. So tell us a little bit about the story of Onward, and we'll dive into our review.
Yeah, so you have two brothers, one voiced by Tom Holland, the younger one, and then Chris Pratt is the older brother. And this is in this fantastical world, kind of Dungeons and Dragons type place. Unicorns are basically raccoons in the garbage cans. You got families of elves and centaurs and
Trolls
and
yeah.
all these fantastical creatures. And basically, corporate America has taken over. They've lost their magic, they've lost their spark of creativity, so now it's just all about capitalism and big business and money and that kind of thing.
Even lost the ability to even care about exercising anymore.
Yeah.
It's all about, okay, how can I get things done the fastest way? And yeah, losing that magic. And the two brothers they lost a parent,
Right.
Lost their father years ago. So far in the past, that the youngest brother has no memory of the dad. And the older brother is kind of he's taking a gap year, and we don't know if it's in between college or between high school and college. We just know that it's the longest gap year ever. This character is played by Chris Pratt. Tom Holland plays the younger brother, and the voice acting chemistry between those two is so solid. It is so awesome. You felt like you were watching brothers interact with each other.
Yeah, I absolutely loved their interactions in Avengers Infinity War, Star-Lord and Spider-Man. And it certainly carried over here across franchises and across from live action to animation. And I'm just very impressed that you were able to develop that connection with them, even though you couldn't actually see them on screen, but it was the emotion that they were projecting into their characters.
Yeah, it was a film that not only dealt with the loss of creativity and the loss of magic, but also the loss of a parent and seeking out what maybe you felt that you missed out on. And I think that's what kind of carried our journey, because early on, if you've seen the trailers, you know that there's a magical spell that happens that's kind of passed down from the father to the sons once the youngest reaches the age of 16, that he can bring his father back. They can bring the father back for one day. Well, the spell goes wrong for a reason, and so they're on a quest to find a way to make the spell complete so they can have that time with their father, at least one day with their father. And they go on this journey, and it's a typical road trip comedy. And it's also got these nods to so many films.
Yeah, you've definitely got some Weekend at Bernie's in there. We saw this from the trailers that only the bottom half of the father comes back. So it's just floating pair of pants, so they kind of have to dress him up to make it look like there's an actual person there, put a big coat on him and some sunglasses and wrap his head in cloth. And so it's definitely Weekend at Bernie's references, and you absolutely, you're cracking up the whole time. You got some Indiana Jones.
A lot of Indiana Jones.
They basically recreate like the entire Indiana Jones franchise over the course of like 2 or 3 scenes, and I love that as a fan of the franchise. So.
There's also nods to Back to the Future in a scene or two. There's also, if you've watched Gremlins, you'll see there are these little biker gang pixies that take on some Gremlin-esque qualities. We'll just kind of leave it at that, but I really love the nods to all these different films. And also with the older brother kind of being this, not really a stoner, but he's trying to figure out what he wants to do in his life. He's got this custom van, and I was reminded of the brother in Sing Street who served as this mentor to a younger brother trying to figure out the world of music, and also Jack Black in the movie Orange County as the older brother to Colin Hanks' character in Orange County. So yeah, I think they took, it was a formula, but the way that they made this formula come to life in a pretty creative way, I've really appreciated it.
Yeah, Pixar has always done a fantastic job appealing to like the broadest range of audiences possible. You can have elementary school students watching this and be entertained by all the colors and all the action and the funny humor and all that entertainment. But people my age, like a 20-year-old, people your age, then even my grandparents can find something to connect to. There's some very mature themes that they explore, and they explore it in a very creative fashion that you might not have expected going in. And there's a bit of a twist at the end that we won't spoil, but I was really pleased that they went through with it.
Yeah, I think this is a film that can speak to families, and it can speak to families in different ways. One of the messages that really came out strong for me is that there are many times that we will let our past weigh us down, or maybe even the past we wish we had, keep us from moving forward. And this movie is a great example of reminding us to continue to move onward with our lives. And I really appreciated the film. There were a couple times that maybe the pacing could have been moved a little faster, but ultimately it didn't take away the enjoyment for me. And it was a film that families, young, middle-aged, and senior adults alike could really take advantage of.
Yeah, I think for my grade, I'm settling at right about a B+. Like you mentioned, I had a few pacing issues at the start. It felt a little bit slow, and then I felt like it meandered a bit too much in some of the middle portions. But at the end of the day, I was very satisfied and felt fulfilled by the emotional journey. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned the emotional journey. There are a lot of laughs, and there are a lot of touching moments as well. Some really, pulling your heartstring, let your eyeballs sweat kind of moments if you allow them. I'm settling on an A- for this film. The movie is Onward, and it is in theaters now. There's also a new IFC film that I want to recommend. It's called Resistance. Jesse Eisenberg is in this film. He is not starring as Lex Luthor. He's actually starring as the real-life person by the name of Marcel Marceau. This film looks at a French resistance movement during World War II. And Jesse Eisenberg's character is a young artist who wants to get into acting, who really is very selfish and only cares about himself, until he sees some orphans from Germany that are being transported over into France. And he locks eyes with this young girl, and he realizes the pain that she's endured, the pain that she's suffering. And there's just something that clicks within him, and he wants to be a part of this resistance movement. And the resistance movement goes on to help save thousands and thousands of young orphans from death by transporting them to a neutral company, really a neutral country. I think this movie to me was heartbreaking, but yet it was inspiring. There was this narrative that I felt was almost perfect in every way. It combined cinematography that was intoxicating. The score was right where it needed to be at just the right times. The performances, Eisenberg was wonderful. I truly enjoyed the performances of this. The set design and sound design, as you would expect in a film that surrounds war, especially World War II, was stellar as it should have been. I think a film like this, bringing a historic epic to audiences to really engage their mind and look at art in a different way. And many people know of the mime Marcel Marceau and his history of being this mime that could just visually take you away. But to see this backstory of his, this true backstory of his, as being a French resistance fighter, I was truly impressed with this film that kind of came out of nowhere. And for me, this is one of my best films of the year so far that I've had a chance to see. And I know you're hoping to check it out in the not too distant future. I am hoping to interview the director of this in the next couple weeks as well, trying to get that set up. So looking forward to that. The same director I did a movie called Hands of Stone, which was a boxing film that was out a few years ago that I really liked as well. Roberto Duran's kind of rise and fall from power in the boxing ring. So I'm looking forward to talking to that writer-director. I'm giving this movie a solid A rating. The movie is called Resistance. Any questions, comments, thoughts about that?
So where can common audience members find this once it's released?
It is going to be released on the 26th of March, so it's coming out pretty soon. We got an early screening. There was no embargo for that. It will be in limited theaters and will also be available in some on-demand networks and avenues. And you like war films as well, Thomas.
Oh yeah, I'm big time into. I love that there's so many different genres that you can incorporate within the war film genre itself. So I'm looking forward to checking out this one.
Yeah, I am too. Well, I'm looking forward to checking it out again. But I'm drawn to war films, especially World War II films, and it seems like lately there have been quite a few that relate to the Nazis and the Nazi power and the Holocaust, and it's almost like a rebirth of that particular focus. We see it with the Amazon series, which we've reviewed as well, with the Nazi hunters, and it's called Hunters. And so, yeah, Resistance is out and about, will be out and about pretty soon. We're going to take a quick intermission. We're going to come back, and we're going to look at an extended Take 5 as we celebrate, what do we celebrate, Thomas? Women.
Yeah, Women's History Month.
Women's History Month. So we'll be celebrating that with women action stars right after this intermission, and maybe we'll get to a documentary series about Hillary Clinton right after this break.
They're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna star out of me.
Hello, welcome back to Meet Me at the Movies. We appreciate you being here, appreciate you spending time with us. Before the break, we reviewed Resistance, also reviewed Onward, and now we're moving onward to talk about a Take 5. And normally we only talk about 5 films or 5 stars, but we're going to expand that, but it's still a Take 5 because it'll take 5 or more minutes to talk about. What is this month?
Women's History Month. Yeah.
Women's History Month. Good job, Thomas. And we are going to celebrate the women of action in films, and we're going to let you kind of dive in. But I do want to say congratulations to Katherine Manning for finally, after however many decades she's been alive, watching the Back to the Future trilogy, which doesn't have a female action star, but I got to celebrate Katherine. She watched all 3 of them back to back to back, and she enjoyed them.
Great Scott.
So congratulations, Katherine Manning. All right, Thomas. All right, man. Give me your take on who you think ought to be on our list of female action stars or action films.
Yeah. I think the first one that comes to mind is Kill Bill, of course, led by Uma Thurman, portraying Beatrix Kiddo, who is like a kung fu master, ninja assassin, and she's out for revenge because at her wedding day, she was attacked mercilessly by Bill, played by David Carradine. And there's a whole force of assassins that she has to hunt down herself. And it's chronicled over the course of 2 volumes, Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. But if you ask Tarantino, it's one singular movie. It's not 2 movies. So it's just the most over-the-top, bombastic kung fu movie that I've seen in a very long time. And this was made back in 2003, I believe. And when you're watching, you're kind of entertained and at the brutality of it all in a kind of a dark way.
Right.
It's all about revenge,
Yeah.
and it's just all about quenching that thirst of revenge.
Yeah, and Tarantino's approach to doing that, and Tarantino's way of finding a way to incorporate women in the leads of his films, really, really amazing. Which kind of takes me back to 1986, and there was a film called Aliens that hit theaters with Sigourney Weaver. Sigourney Weaver, made her first appearance as Ripley in the film Alien, and Alien was really more of a gothic horror film, but if you go into Aliens, she's a full-blown action star. And that really, Cameron knows about making women or putting women into opportunities where they can become action stars and lead in films. And I'll go ahead and dive into my second one as it relates to that, which is also a Cameron. Linda Hamilton, starring as Sarah Connor in The Terminator 2, was where she really started where that journey became true, that she was a female action star in many, many ways. Terminator 2 from 1991. I still go back to that. I think she did a solid job in Dark Fate. You and I didn't really particularly like the film that much, but she did what I think what she should have been doing, and she was in great shape, physical shape for that role as well.
Yeah, and to kind of keep with the same time travel sci-fi theme, I'm going to look at Edge of Tomorrow from 2014, featuring Emily Blunt. And Tom Cruise is also in the movie, but it's interesting, in this one, he's the one that has to learn from Emily Blunt. He's kind of thrust into this insane time travel loop situation that he doesn't know how to get out of. and Emily Blunt is the only one that can guide him along this journey. And she is the true action star in this. And I think this is one of my most underrated action films of the decade. Highly recommend it. They're actually working on a sequel, and I believe Blunt and Cruise are both coming back, and I can't wait to see them team up again for this one.
Emily Blunt is amazing. I mean, she goes from being Mary Poppins to being the wife, pregnant wife in A Quiet Place, and she's going to be kind of in the second Quiet Place, which will be coming out. We'll be talking about that soon. She's got an action role in that as well. So yes, she is so versatile. But yeah, that's a great film, great choice as well. I'll kind of stay with the sci-fi element as well. Back when Mad Max Fury Road came out, I remember saying this movie should have been called Mad Maxine. Charlize Theron really took the lead in this film, and it was her film as much as anybody else's. Talking about another versatile acting talent. She can do it all. She can do comedy. She can do drama, as we've seen with her Oscar-nominated and winning roles. And then she can do action as well. And you look at the Fast franchise. She's been, she's made a name for herself there as well. So, yeah, Mad Max Fury Road gets my list with Mad Maxine, as I like to call her.
Well, if we're talking about post-apocalyptic futures, you have to look at The Hunger Games, which was, of course, filmed right here in Shelby, right down the road from here. The first one was, in fact. And we had Jennifer Lawrence in the role of Katniss Everdeen. And this dominated pop culture lexicon for like 3 or 4 years back in 2012 through 2015. And she was the female archer huntress hero. And I think she really inspired a younger generation of females everywhere, and as the next action star.
Yeah, I think so. And once again, you talk about versatility. Jennifer Lawrence can do it all.
Yeah.
She can absolutely do it all. We haven't seen a lot from her the past couple years, which has kind of surprised me, because it seemed like every year there was a film that would come out, and you're like, hey, Oscar nomination, Oscar nomination, Oscar nomination. So looking forward to seeing more from her on the road as well. Several years ago, there was a character introduced to the MCU called the Black Widow. The Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson starring in that, and I have been wanting a Black Widow film really ever since I saw her kind of launch onto the big screen in the MCU. And I think she has been solid throughout this entire MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, since it first started, since we first saw her on screen. We've gotten to know her, we've gotten to know her backstory, we've gotten to know her end story, and we're going to get a chance to see kind of a middle part of that story as well. So Scarlett Johansson, the Black Widow, I think is a great action figure as well to celebrate.
Yeah, and kind of intersecting with the whole Russian spy, Cold War era type thing. Looking at Atomic Blonde from 2017, featuring Charlize Theron, who, of course, you mentioned from Mad Max Fury Road. And this is I think it takes place in 1989, spy thriller. And it's basically a female John Wick type thing we have going on. It's actually directed by David Leitch, the co-director of the first John Wick. And some of the action sequences in this are my favorites of the past decade. There's this one-take action scene that takes place like over the course of 12 minutes, and you are just enthralled and absorbed in every single punch, every single kick, and so they're working on a sequel for Atomic Blonde as well. So.
Yeah, and I will keep on with the superhero themed. I cannot mention fantastic women without saying Wonder Woman with Gal Gadot. I think she, to me, was the best thing about Batman v Superman, and best thing about Justice League, and of course the best thing about Wonder Woman. Big fan of her and what she's been able to do to a universe that I've not been particularly in love with, but she definitely makes those films worth engaging and worth watching. So Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot is on my list.
Is it Gadot or Gadot?
You're exactly right. I think it is Gadot, but a lot of people have said Gadot, and she answers to either. So yeah, thank you, Thomas, for bringing that up, Gal Gadot. What do you think, Tim? You think Gadot? You think Gadot? All right. Well, we're gonna check that out. So thank you, Thomas. I appreciate it. If you're from France, like in the French Resistance film, you would say Gadot, Gal Gadot. All right, do you have anybody else on your list, Thomas?
I think that about covers it. Well, unless we want to mention Captain Marvel, as you can see from my T-shirt.
Right, you can mention
first
that.
MCU female superhero with their own solo film, and we got Black Widow coming next month, as you mentioned. So yeah.
All right, I'm going to mention one more. Angelina Jolie in both Lara Croft, actually 3 films. Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, also in the movie Wanted, and then Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Salt. That's 4 films. She's proved that she could definitely be an action star. So there's our list, our take 5, tons of action stars starring female characters, and really happy that we can celebrate what is it, Thomas?
Women's History Month.
Women's
yeah.
History Month right here on C19 TV and Meet Me at the Movies. So Thomas, we do have this documentary series from Hulu called Hillary. Do you want to do that next week, or can you knock it out in like a minute?
We'll come back to that next week.
All right,
yeah.
we're gonna talk more about the Hillary documentary series next week. We are about to wrap things up. Do want to let you know, for home delivery, if you're looking for something for home delivery, I reviewed the film Dark Waters back before Christmas, and Mark Ruffalo got a chance to interview him, the star of that. He's also an MCU character. He's the Incredible Hulk, and Bruce Banner. That film is available for home delivery now if you are interested in checking that out and you haven't had the opportunity yet. Well, we're going to close with a quote of the week. And this kind of fits anything that happens right here on Meet Me at the Movies. This comes from Onward. If it is adventure you seek, you have come to the right tavern. So until next time, for Thomas Manning, for the invisible man over there, Mr. Greg Tillman, for Tim Foster on the Tim Cam, and the interns who are actively working back there, we do appreciate you all, and thanks for tuning in. Until next time, that is a wrap.